So what I've got going on here is the Tekonsha, part number is 118782, trailer wiring kit, and this is supposed to be for the Jeep Wrangler, and it is supposedly confirmed to work with the JL. So got it from etrailer.com, and those guys obviously specialize in trailer equipment, so they usually know what they're talking about. Now here's the little power distribution box. And you can see how you've got your 4-pin flat connector for your bass boat or your utility trailer. And then of course you've got your pigtails there just to plug right in. So it's all supposed to be plug and play in the rear of the Jeep. And then you have this one wire right here, which you're supposed to take from the rear of the Jeep up to the battery. That's what you're supposed to do with it. Now, I'm sure if you're pretty good with electrical stuff, you could probably find somewhere in the rear of the Jeep to connect this, especially if you have the halogen lights and not the LEDs like me. But for the sake of doing it properly, I'm going to run it up to the front of the Jeep somehow, some way. In the past, when I've done Wranglers, seems like they're actually pretty easy vehicles to do, because the nature of a Wrangler is that they just kind of lay the carpet in there, you know. Pretty easy to move out of the way. And then of course they give you these tie straps and some heat shrink butt connectors, a fuse. Actually, there is a fuse connector here, so when you get to the battery, you connect this fuse in line between the wire, the main wire, and the battery. You can put this fuse, this included fuse, in there for even more safety. And of course there's some instructions down there in the box. So this is the only hard part, getting this up to the battery. And I'm hoping on the JL that there's some kind of a hole in the firewall up on the passenger side that maybe will make this a little bit easier project. So I'm gonna go out there and give it a whirl. Alright guys, so it's the next morning and it's really windy out here, so hopefully you can hear me. So what I did last night is the main wire that I was telling you about that you have to run to the front of the vehicle so you can connect it to the battery. They supply you with the ring connector there and the fuse. There's an inline fuse that they supply you with that goes to the positive on your battery. I don't have the fuse in yet. I'm going to do that last when I have everything connected. They give you some butt connectors that are heat shrink connectors so that you can seal them off really well. And then what I did was I ran that black wire along the top of the firewall. You can see these connections here for the up on the cowl. I just ran the black wire, there it is, right in there, and put a couple of zip ties, and I took it over to the driver's side. The reason I did that is because if you look on the passenger side of the JL, you can see how crowded it is over here. You've got the battery, the main battery. Up underneath the main battery is the secondary battery for the ESS system. And then you have this power distribution box over here with fuses and relays in it. So you can't really see the firewall to get any work done over here on this side. So I ran the wire across the cowl over there to the driver's side. And I'm gonna try and get down in here and show you this. There it is. You can see that grommet in the firewall behind the brake booster. I drilled a small hole in that and ran my wire in to the firewall through there. Now if you get inside the Jeep, under the steering wheel, up under the dash, you can see this grommet on the inside of the firewall as well. But that's how I ran the power wire off of the battery along the cowl, and that's how I got it into the vehicle. Now let me see if I can show you, if the camera will focus. Up in here you can see where the power wire comes into the firewall up there. Hopefully you can see that. A little bit of daylight up there gives it away. And what I did was, there's a metal bracket right here. I ran the wire on the inside of that bracket, and I did that purposefully to keep it away from the brake pedal and all of that. And then of course you just take the wire, ran it behind the kick panel down. I kind of tucked it in. I didn't remove any of this trim work along the door sill. I just kind of tucked the wire in there along the way and took it down the driver's side. And I thought that was going to be the hard part of the job. That's why I went ahead and did it last night. But it turns out that is not the hard part of the job after all. So once I got along the door sill to the back seat here, I tucked it in along that trim work and went down the tub here just below where the hardtop mates up. Right up in there, I just tucked it in there. And it comes out back here by the driver's side tail light. And then I went down into the grommet that they use for the wiring for the tail light and everything. So when I have all this buttoned back up, it'll be a nice clean installation and you won't see that power wire anywhere. Now here's the hard part that I have discovered about this kit. In order to get to all this stuff, you got to take all this trim work off back here where the 12-volt outlet is. There is a trim piece right here that goes around the seat belt. You got to pop that out first, and then you got to take this trim piece on the floor that's next to the part that opens up. You got to take that trim piece out, which has the big Torx head. See there, it's got those big Torx head screws in it. I think it was a T40 to get those out. And when you get all that stuff out, then you got to take this weather seal. I had to pop this weather seal off and loosen it up down through there. And then finally the trim piece would pop out with a trim tool. I used a trim tool like this so I wouldn't tear up anything. So this has turned into a little bit more of a project than I expected. So if you don't want to take your brand new Jeep apart, if you're not comfortable with doing this, then maybe the $800 they charge you for the factory tow package is worth it. I don't know. I'm going to end up with about $150 invested in this when I'm done, so I'm saving a whole bunch of money. That's why I'm doing it. But if you're not comfortable taking your Jeep apart, then it might be worth it. Now, I've got this trim piece loose, but there's a hole here, and on the passenger side, there's a trim plate right here. You pop off, there's a hole there also, and it's got these guys in it. It's a plastic screw. It's a 10 millimeter, but it's also, you can use a Torx on it. If you screw that out, then the tail light will just pop right out. So it is possible to remove the tail lights without taking any trim work off. And so the instructions didn't really say a whole lot about taking all this off, but I feel like to make for a cleaner installation and to hide all the wires and to keep them all protected, it'd be better to take the trim work off and do it this way. So now that I finally got that power wire into the tail light housing, now I can start making my T connections here. I also had to go down in there, probably can't see it, right in there. I had to drill a little hole, 3/32 hole, because you have to connect this ground wire back here. Here's the black wire. I don't know if you can see this. Here's this little power distribution box, and it's got a black wire there I've got to connect to this main power wire. Goodness, my video's all fuzzy this morning, but anyway, this is a bit of a project here, but when it's all said and done, it should be pretty nice and neat, and it'll look somewhat factory for about $650 less money. So I'll come back in a little while and we'll finish this up. Alright, so I think I finally got the driver's side done. I have my T connector plugged in, finally. And I've got my power wire here connected with the butt connector down there. I got my ground wire connected. I've got the little power distribution box stuck to the side, out of the way of the tail light. So I'm gonna tell you what, guys, this turned out to be a whole lot more of a project than I expected. And then you can see the cavity back there where the fuel filler hose is. I ran all the rest of the wires back there behind that. And then underneath of the Jeep, you can see where they come out of the cavity up there. So now I'm just going to run these wires along the top of the cross member there, because I don't have my hitch installed yet, and so I'm going to make sure I stay on top of that cross member when I take these wires across there, and I'll just go up and underneath to do the passenger side tail light, hopefully. So getting close to being finished. I started on this last night, and it's almost lunchtime on Saturday, and I'm still working on it. So did not expect it to be this big of a project, but that's how it goes sometimes. Alright guys, so I'm finally done. I ended up using half the tools that I own to do this, which is ridiculous. Ended up getting cut, sliced my hand over here working behind the tail light. Oh, what a mess. But finally got the T-connectors plugged in on both sides of the Jeep. Both tail lights are plugged in, the power wire, the ground wire set. So now all that's left is to go up underneath it here and start zip tying my wires along the top of the frame rail, and then I'll be done finally. Man, what a project. So again, to recap, I've got about 70 bucks in this wiring connector. I'm gonna probably spend about 70 bucks on a hitch. So I'm gonna be in it all together for about 150 with shipping. And if you want to save some money, you can do this, but it takes a while. It's a little bit more of a project. If you want it to look nice and so you can't see any wires at all, got my trim pieces all back on. It's pretty much a factory looking installation, but it takes some time to do it. So you can get it done at home if you want to, but if you're not comfortable taking your Jeep apart like this, it might be good to go ahead and check off that box for the factory towing package, which I think also includes some nice little switches up on the dash that I'm not going to use, don't really need, but some of you guys might like them if you're going to run winches and various things. So I guess that's going to wrap it up for this installation. It's awful windy out here. You probably can't hear me very well anyway. So when we finally get the hitch delivered, we'll put that on and show you what it looks like when it's all said and done. And after all this work, man, I hope the lights I hope the lights are functional. If I plug this thing in and my trailer doesn't light up, I'm going to be upset, but we'll see. All right guys, thanks for watching.